Welcome to the deep dive, everybody. Today we're going to be unpacking something pretty fascinating.
Okay.
It's chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's known as Karma Yoga,
Right.
or the Book of Virtue and Work.
Yeah.
And it's really a conversation between, a warrior, his name's Arjuna, and his divine charioteer, Krishna.
Okay.
And they're talking about action and inaction and duty.
Yeah, you've got a battlefield, you've got a moral crisis, and you've got ancient wisdom that still, it resonates even today.
Right.
Thousands of years later.
And Arjuna's about to fight a war, against his own family.
Right.
And he's questioning, everything.
Yeah.
So what does Krishna advise? Like, does he say, run away and become a monk?
Not quite.
Yeah.
Krishna lays out two paths.
Okay.
Karma Yoga, the path of action,
right.
and Sankhya Yoga, the path of meditation.
Right.
But here's the twist.
Okay.
He doesn't say you have to choose just one.
So it's not about just sitting on a mountaintop,
Right.
meditating 24/7.
Well, even in stillness, there's action happening in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about it.
Yeah.
Trying to suppress a thought, that's an action in itself.
Yeah.
Krishna uses the example of someone who, they renounce material possessions, but they can't stop thinking about them.
Oh, wow.
It's hypocrisy, he says.
So it's about aligning our inner world with our outer actions.
Yeah.
Don't just talk the talk.
Right.
Walk the walk.
Exactly. And then Krishna, he takes this a step further
Okay.
and introduces this concept of honorable action.
So what makes action honorable in this context?
Well, it's about fulfilling your duty, without being attached to the outcome or personal gain. It's selfless service, contributing to the well-being of the world simply because it's the right thing to do.
He even uses this amazing analogy of a cosmic cycle
Right?
to kind of illustrate this point.
Yeah.
Action, sacrifice, rain, food, life.
Yeah, it's all interconnected.
It's all interconnected. Kind of reminds me of that saying, what goes around comes around.
Krishna's tapping into this idea that everything's connected. He's talking about Brahma as the source of all action.
Right.
And how our actions, even the seemingly small ones, they all contribute to this universal flow.
And to support this idea, he brings up examples of ancient saints like Jnana, who achieved enlightenment through action.
Right.
Not by avoiding it.
It raises this fascinating question about the role of leadership. If even saints attained enlightenment through action,
Right.
then we all have a responsibility to set, a positive example, right?
Yeah.
People are always watching
Yeah.
and often emulate those they respect.
Which is even more interesting when you consider that Krishna himself,
Right.
a god,
Yeah.
chooses to
That's
act.
the key point. He could just sit back and observe, but he actively participates in the world. Yeah.
To guide humanity towards righteousness.
And what I find encouraging is that he doesn't condemn those who are still, attached to material pursuits.
He meets people where they are. It's not about judgment. It's about understanding and guidance.
Right.
Everyone is on their own unique journey.
And speaking of journeys, he then brings up this concept of Dharma, which is often translated as duty or purpose.
Right.
It's a complex concept,
It is.
but essential to understanding karma yoga.
Imagine, like, a fish trying to climb a tree.
Okay.
That's what it's like to live outside your Dharma.
Right.
You're not fulfilling your inherent nature.
Yeah.
And you're probably not going to be very successful at it either.
So it's about finding your unique path and playing your role in the grand scheme of things.
And Krishna's advice is to stick with your Dharma, even when it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's better to fulfill your true purpose,
Right.
even imperfectly,
Yeah.
than to chase something that isn't meant for you. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But Arjuna still has questions.
Okay.
He asks about that force, that compels people to act against their better judgment.
Oh, yeah.
We all know that feeling, right?
Yeah, we do. And Krishna, he identifies this force as desire,
Right.
or kama, as
Yeah.
it's referred to in the text.
Okay.
He describes it as being born from darkness, fueled by appetite,
Right.
a powerful enemy that can, lead us astray.
He doesn't mince words when describing how destructive desire can be.
No.
It's like he's saying, desire is a smokescreen, obscuring the fire of our true potential.
The imagery he uses is striking.
Yeah.
Desire is like smoke obscuring fire,
Right.
rust tarnishing a mirror, the womb confining a baby.
Right.
It clouds our judgment, hinders our spiritual progress,
Yeah.
keeps us trapped in a cycle of craving and dissatisfaction.
So if desire is this powerful force that can lead us astray, how do we break free?
That's where part 2 of our deep dive begins.
Stay tuned, because things are about to get even more interesting.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Before we left off, we were talking about that powerful force of desire.
Yeah.
And how it can, lead us astray.
I've been thinking about Krishna's metaphors about desire being like, smoke or rust. It's just such a vivid way to describe how it can cloud our judgment.
Absolutely. And, it gets to the heart of what Krishna is saying in this chapter.
Right.
That true freedom comes not from giving in to every desire.
Right.
But from understanding and mastering them.
So how do we break free from this trap of desire? I mean, it feels so ingrained in, human nature.
Krishna's answer, it's both simple and profound.
Okay.
Control the senses and resist the allure of desire.
That sounds like a pretty tall order.
Yeah.
Where do we even begin?
Well, it starts with recognizing the power of the mind.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Our minds, they can create incredible things.
Yeah.
But they can also be our own worst enemy if we let them run wild.
This makes me think about meditation.
Yeah.
Is that what Krishna is suggesting?
Meditation can certainly help, but it's more than just sitting quietly.
Right.
It's about cultivating this awareness of our thoughts and emotions. A kind of inner observer that can witness our desires without being swept away by them.
So we're not trying to eliminate desire altogether.
Not necessarily. Desire is, it's a part of what makes us human. It drives us to create, to connect, to achieve. The problem arises when we become slaves to our desires.
Yeah.
When they control us rather than the other way around.
So it's about finding that balance.
Right.
Like acknowledging our desires without letting them dictate our actions.
Krishna reminds Arjuna and us that we have the power within us, the power of the soul,
right,
to choose our actions, even in the face of strong desires.
It's about taking back control of the reins.
Yeah.
Becoming the charioteer of our own lives.
That's a great analogy.
So to speak.
And I think that's where Krishna's his call to action becomes so powerful.
Yeah.
He's telling Arjuna, and by extension all of us, to step into our power.
Right.
To fight against both external enemies and internal doubts.
Right.
And to fulfill our duty with a focused mind and unattached spirit.
This idea of acting with an unattached spirit.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done, right? I mean, how do we detach from the outcomes of our actions when we're so invested in them?
It's definitely, it's a practice, not a one-time achievement.
Right.
It involves cultivating a sense of equanimity.
Okay.
Accepting that we can't control everything and focusing on the effort rather than being fixated on specific results.
That reminds me of something we touched on earlier, the concept of selfless service.
Yeah.
Does that tie into this idea of detachment?
Absolutely. When we act for the benefit of others,
right,
without selfish attachment, we tap into this deeper well of inspiration and motivation.
Yeah.
It's no longer about what's in it for me,
right,
but rather how can I contribute to something larger than myself?
It's like our actions become, infused with a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
That transcends our individual desires.
And that's precisely what Krishna is guiding us toward.
Yeah.
A way of being in the world that's both dynamic and detached.
Right.
Purposeful and peaceful. He's pointing to a path where action, isn't a burden, but a form of expression.
Yeah.
A way to align ourselves with the cosmic flow.
And the really fascinating thing is that he uses himself as an example, right? Krishna, despite being a god, chooses to act for the well-being of humanity.
It's a powerful reminder that true leadership, whether on a battlefield or in, everyday life, it involves both wisdom and action. It's about understanding that interconnectedness of everything.
Right.
And using our unique our unique gifts and talents
Wow.
to make a positive contribution to the world.
But we don't all have, divine powers.
Right.
How can we as ordinary individuals apply these teachings in a practical way?
That's a great question, and one we'll explore further in the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
Well, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been, exploring karma yoga, this fascinating concept of selfless action.
Right.
And I'm really curious to hear more about, how we can actually put it into practice in our daily lives.
It's a great question. Yeah.
And one that I think a lot of us, we grapple with.
Yeah.
We can understand these ancient teachings on an intellectual level,
Mm-hmm.
but bridging that gap between, knowledge and action,
Right.
well, that can be tricky.
It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day grind
Yeah.
and lose sight of the bigger picture.
Mhm.
So where do we even start?
Well, I think one of the most powerful takeaways from the Bhagavad Gita
Okay.
is that action is not something to be avoided.
Okay.
It's actually essential for our spiritual growth.
That's interesting. It seems like counterintuitive to
Yeah.
think that being active in the world could lead to spiritual enlightenment.
We often associate spirituality with, withdrawing from the world,
Yep.
with seeking, solitude and stillness.
Yeah.
But Krishna's message is that true enlightenment? It comes from engaging with the world in a conscious and deliberate way. So it's not about becoming passive observers.
Not at all. It's about recognizing that every action, no matter how small, it has this potential to create positive change.
Yeah.
It's about seeing our lives as a series of opportunities
Mm-hmm.
to express our highest selves,
Yeah.
to contribute to the well-being of others,
Right.
and to align ourselves with the cosmic flow.
That makes me think of the ripple effect.
Yeah.
Even a small act of kindness can have, a far-reaching impact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the idea of intention comes in.
Right.
Krishna emphasizes the importance of acting with a clear mind
Right.
and a pure heart.
So it's not just about, doing things.
Right.
It's about the why behind our actions.
Exactly. It's about aligning our actions with our values,
Right.
with our understanding of Dharma, with our desire to make a positive difference in the world.
But as we discussed earlier, desire can be a powerful force,
Yeah.
that can cloud our judgment and lead us astray.
It can.
So how do we reconcile this idea of selfless action
Right.
with the reality of our human desires?
It's a delicate dance, isn't it?
Yeah.
The key is to cultivate discernment,
Good.
to learn to distinguish between desires that lead us toward our higher purpose and those that pull us off course.
So it's about becoming more aware of our motivations.
Yes.
Okay.
It's about developing that inner observer, we
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah.
The one who can, witness our thoughts and feelings without judgment.
Right.
When we can do that,
Yeah.
we create space between stimulus and response.
Right.
We're no longer reacting impulsively to our desires.
Right.
We're choosing how we want to respond.
It sounds like a lifelong practice.
It is.
Yeah.
But the more we cultivate this awareness,
Mm-hmm.
the more we align our actions with our highest aspirations, the more fulfilling and meaningful our lives become.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think that's the essence of karma yoga. It's a path that leads us toward, joy and purpose and connection with, something greater than ourselves.
It's inspiring to think that, we all have this capacity to create positive change in the world,
Mm-hmm.
even amidst the challenges and complexities of life.
We do. And Krishna's message, echoing through the centuries,
Yeah.
it reminds us that we're not alone on this journey.
Hmm.
We have the wisdom of the ages to guide us, the power
Yeah.
of the soul within us, and the opportunity to make each day a testament to our highest potential.
Beautiful. What a beautiful way to end our deep dive into karma yoga.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
It's been my pleasure. And to our listeners, I'll leave you with this question to ponder. If action is inevitable, as Krishna suggests, how can you ensure your actions are aligned with your higher purpose and contribute to the well-being of yourself and the world?
That's a great question.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.